like I mentioned, my name is Natalia Hanna. I'm practicing Notary Public and owner of Uptown Notaries. So real estate agents in real estate can be used as intermediates because process a lot of real estate transactions with big money involved, and that really attracts criminal activities and criminals to use the real estate as a vehicle in criminal activities, which hides the source of money or hides the beneficial owners of those funds through complex corporate trust structures. And for us, really is understanding the risks associated in the real estate sector is really, really important, because some examples of common methods used by criminals to kind of use those funds is, those are one of the examples, is undervaluing or overvaluing the property value. It's a rapid successive buying or selling. Oftentimes, criminals would use third parties, and we're going to talk about it in my presentation a little bit, how to understand really when third parties involved. So it's third parties or companies that really put quite a distance from the actual beneficial owner. Sometimes with involvement with lawyers, accountants, real estate agents, and financial advisors. And of course, they use cash from criminal sources and private sales. Real estate agents are reporting bodies under the FINTRAC legislation as the notaries. I don't know if you are aware, but lawyers, there's a gap in the legislation because lawyers are not reporting bodies under legislations, and potentially that could be used by criminals to process those transactions through the lawyers, because they do not have to report suspicious transactions. But what actually are the 6 pillars for the compliance program under the program? So those are requirement by the law is to appoint a compliance officer who is responsible for the program implementation, is to develop and apply written compliance policies and procedures, conduct a risk assessment of your business to assess the document risk of a money laundering, develop and maintain written ongoing compliance and training program. So I guess today, the fact that we're talking about that could be considered by your brokerage as a training program. You should have in place also and document a plan for ongoing compliance training. And every 2 years, it's suggested to review your compliance program, policies in place, to make sure that your risk assessment is how it should be, because sometimes we get the audits from FINTRAC, and that's what they will be looking, just those 6 things here, whether you're in compliance with that. Here are some resources for you for the compliance program requirements. If Natalia wants, I can share after my presentation with you so you can copy and distribute the links. But I encourage everybody to look through these links and really gets the deep and dive what really is FINTRAC looking for. And that risk assessment program, that is a requirement specifically, must be designed to access the document, those risks associated with money laundering, terrorist financing that can impact on real estate practice in BC, and document and implement mitigation measures. By default, real estate is a medium risk.
This meeting is being recorded.
It's not a low risk. So this means you have to have certain measures to mitigate those risks, to recognize those risks in your policies.
Yeah, we have Margaret, Alan, and Vadim also joined.
Hi, good morning.
Margaret, if you can be on a camera, would be great.
Hello?
Just a second. I think I don't think you see my presentation going.
I could see it.
I see it.
You see it? Okay.
I see the first page.
Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I was bound to the first page.
So,
FINTRAC provides lists of indicators that will help you to, when you deal with real estate financial transactions, indicators to identify those red flags, because it's really sometimes difficult really to recognize the red flags in a transaction. And those indicators, I hear some echo.
Vadim has, yeah.
So those indicators depends on the theme, like you see here, value, flipping. So here's an example. So for example, the company purchasing real estate has a complex ownership structure. So that's just might be an indicator. It doesn't mean that just because of having that, you reached your suspicion. There must be a really kind of follow of facts and indicators, and you concluded based on reasonable grounds that you have a suspicion, but we're going to talk about it. But those are following examples. Another one, loan or mortgage amount is above the market value. Client purchases property on someone else's name as an associate, nominee, company, corporation, trust, or relative, and those are third parties, obviously, and those could be quite complex structures. Client can't really explain you the last minute substitution of purchasing party's name. So all of the sudden, last minute, there is a change of the name who goes on the contract. Client pays initial deposit with a check from a third party other than a spouse or parent. And of course, all of this must be recorded. No email address, physical address, home or business telephone number. So it's definitely a red flag. Client buys back property that he or she recently sold. Successive buying and selling transactions of the same real estate. Client shows strong interest in quickly completing the transaction without really showing a good cause or any interest in the property, price negotiations, risk involved, commissions. So just buying as is as quickly as possible. Accelerated repayment of loan or mortgage shortly after deal is completed, even if penalties are cured. However, this is probably hard to track for the real estate agent. The information on the loan agreement is inconsistent or incorrect. Large cash transaction. Client purchases personal use property through his or her company when this type of transaction is consistent with client's ordinary business of practice. So in general, it's something that smells not right. And usually you would feel it. You will have this gut feeling that something is off here, doesn't make sense. As soon as you got that, you need to start asking more questions. So what to report, right? So we need to report money laundering and terrorist financing offense. So those are what we must to report. How to get to that conclusion in terms of whether it's a reasonable grounds or not. Also, this information is available for you in the resources. So You have to have a reasonable grounds to suspect. So it's a conclusion you reach based on an assessment of facts, contacts, those indicators that we went through that associated with a financial transaction. So your suspicion must be reasonable, meaning, for example, that it cannot be biased. It cannot be just subjective. And here you see the threshold of suspicion, right? So the more facts you have, the likely probability that, and remember, you don't need to prove anything here. Your obligation is to report. And then financial transactions, look at, like, if you look at the name already, Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center, all what it does, it collects information and analyzes it, right? It's not up to us what they will do with this information. Our obligation is just to report, even if it's not true, but you, based on, again, facts of the transaction, your suspicion got to the conclusion that it is a suspicion transaction. And what are the FINTRAC's expectations here, right? So we go
Can I
back.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Is this, when you report, is it anonymous?
Good question. I think no. I remember I did once a report. You will have your name there because they should.
Can you understand why somebody might be reluctant to report somebody they think is a terrorist? You know, you'd be exposing yourself to some potential problems,
but you
right?
know, that person would not know, and you don't have to tell them.
Okay, so
right?
the person who you're reporting doesn't know.
Exactly.
Okay.
They don't know.
Can you understand why I'd be like, well, gee, this guy might be an international criminal. I want to report him. Like, yay.
Yeah, no, they will
so.
not know, right? And you don't have, it's not your obligation to tell the client, oh, you know, I'm reporting you. No,
Right.
it might be not safe to do that, right? So,
Yeah, it would be, I just thought I would be in, yeah.
Absolutely. So back to those 6 pillars, right? And again, probably I don't know how you guys are set up. Probably you have already policies that were set through the brokerage, right? And then you have some maybe forms that you fill in. I'm sure you have those, right? But your policy that you have, the brokerage as a reporting body must have that in place. So you must include the details on a process for how you identify, how you assess and submit this report to FINTRAC. And we'll go over what really to consider when you prepare the report. So here's the questions that you will fill in the report. Who are the parties to the transaction? So you really need to list everyone here that's involved, including account holders. You have to take reasonable measures to identify really who is behind the transactions. If the check, let's say the deposit was paid by a third party, you need to report all of this, right? You need to provide identifying information. List, if it's a corporation, you must list owners, directors, officers, and those with the signing authority when possible. And if transaction involves a business, you could conclude information on ownership, right? Usually corporate search will help to do that. When was transaction completed or attempted? And if not completed, why? So it's really like telling a story, what happened here, right? Provide the facts, contacts, and those indicators. Those are red flags regarding the transactions. What are financial instrument or mechanism used to conduct the transaction? So that what you will go to your policy and risk assessment program, because you need to know your steps, right? And that will come from your policies in place. Where did the transaction take place? The location, why the transaction or attempted transaction are related to the commission or attempted commission of the money laundering or terrorist offense. So again, state those indicators used to support your suspicion. State the suspected criminal offense related if known, and how did the transaction take place. So again, those are questions that will help you to really tell the story of what happened. Tools available for you, of course, land title office, right? I think that's a common practice for everybody. Title search is a must. We see who is on title in order to see whether there is a third party involved to identify beneficial ownership. Now we have LOTA, that those LOTA reports also available to pull. It's a public information. So if LOTA report was filed, then it's an indicator for you that on title, it's a legal owner, but who is holding interest in trust for somebody else, right? So this means there's definitely third party involved. Again, it doesn't mean that if you determine that it's immediately a reporting situation, right? You need to obtain more information, ask more questions in order to get to that conclusion. If we deal with a corporation, definitely it's a corporate search. And of course, I can't repeat this enough for how it is important to record every time the IDs, right, for your clients. And last presentation, I told about the case where real estate agent, it was a very fast transaction. He didn't record the IDs. The name went wrong. It was a whole thing about the name. We had to correct the name through the court because it was a foreclosure. In that particular scenario, it wasn't suspicion transaction, but it really jeopardized the whole deal just because the IDs were not taken at all, right? Or in another example, I was having a deal where mortgage broker didn't record the IDs, and when transaction finished, the mortgage broker was reaching out to me, asking me to share the IDs for the client. And I couldn't do that because I have a privacy policy to my client, and I cannot release this without the consent of the client. So mortgage broker was in trouble there because client didn't want to release IDs to her either for some reason. So, and she couldn't complete her reporting documents, right? So IDs.
It's funny that you mentioned lotteries because that's actually fairly well known as one of the best money laundering things there is. How do you prove it, right? So the BC government is one of the biggest money launderers in existence. You know, it's just, and how do you prove it, right? Yeah, I won. Great. You're lucky. Woohoo. You know?
I know. We do what we can do, right? And and use
Well,
the
no,
tools.
casinos and lotteries. That's where you launder money.
Yeah. Third party determination. So we will touch upon that. So it's definitely a red flag, right? Every time there is a third party. And that was actually the only time when I did a FINTRAC report, because there was a third party involved, and that party, you know, the occupation was shady. That party was, I never talked to that party. It was overseas, large cash transactions. There was like a lot of those indicators saying that it's not really that lady who was giving me instructions. There was somewhere else behind the scenes that didn't really want to provide any information about himself or identify himself, right? So third-party record requirement is for sure you must have a record of their name, address, principal business occupation, if individual date of birth, if corporation, incorporation number and place of incorporation, the search would be great. The nature of relationship between the third party and individual giving you the cash. So you need really to connect those two, how they connected. So what's going on there, right? It's all relevant for your file, and that information will go to your report. This slide is about really how to stay informed of latest trends. The great thing is really to follow FINTRAC website. You can subscribe each time there is a new legislation out there, the forms or requirements. You will get a notification. So that's what I did. And every time there is something new going on, I will get an email notification. So that's good idea. Join some groups, continue your learning about that, build the networking, and really stay aware of the trends. There's a lots of, fraudsters out there, and it's like they get so much sophisticated in their approach. And like, for example, recently we had phone call for a person who was inquiring. So no, there was first email about the quote. Then they call, but then we had an email going on from the society that those are known fraudsters. Those are not real people. So like you have to be alert, right? Usually it's just the email, but now they also call you. They really make it feel like it's a legit transaction. But really be aware of what's the tools they're using, what techniques they're using. And also audits. Natalia, can you share if you were or your real estate agents were audited for FINTRAC purposes?
Yes.
We have regular yearly audit, and where even that regular auditor every time check dates for disclosures and for FINTRAC to be on or before the day on transactions. Yeah, so data very important. So this is every year check for sure. Regular auditors that check accounting, and of course they check overall trade record sheet, which for each deal it's a 1 page. It's like first entry of check or summary of transaction. Transaction have it phone number, have email of the client, and auditor shares that oddly enough in every brokerage have maybe 1 or 2 realtor who really protecting the list of clients, and to the point they don't want to give it even to company, and they don't want to put that out, thinking maybe secretaries or somebody else gonna see the names and basically, so to speak, steal the clients, right? But it's still obligation for them from Financial Service Authority to put out this information, because information client of the realtor, it's client of the company, not only their client. Because if something happen, company gonna be responsible double amount than a realtor is. So remember that, guys, you need to know, and this such of excuses, oh, I already forget name, I already forget telephone or email of my clients, not gonna fly, because it's obligation, it's mandatory on trade record sheets.
Absolutely. And also back to the third party determination, I wanted to add here, sometimes there will be employees giving instructions. So if that's the case, it's still considered that they're acting on behalf of third party. In my notary practice, oftentimes we have a client and there is somebody else involved, maybe a family member, or sometimes even let's say mortgage brokers trying really to make this transaction easy for her client to the point that she fills in the forms, right? She provides all this sensitive information. But again, that raises a concern here. So who is really giving me instructions, right? So it's really important always to identify those, and everybody in our office, they know we need to speak to actual person. And if that person cannot really talk to you or provide instruction, then why? Maybe there is a capacity an issue, right? Sometimes that happens too, that if that person lacks the capacity, then it's completely different conversation here, right? So you have to speak always to your client, not to sometimes husband or wife, right? It seems normal, yeah, husband, helps wife. It's kind of mutual transaction, but it's really important to keep the conversations going with your client. And if for some reason you're not going anywhere, right? So we need to understand why. And yeah, that's the slide if you want to stay in touch with us. You guys can follow us on Instagram, and sometimes I do some small posts that will help you in your real estate practice, something that you may learn and apply. So let's stay connected, and you can always reach our office if you're dealing with a transaction and you have like a legal question. Feel free to call me, Natalia, Uptown Notaries. And also great news, I would like to share that now on our website, we have 24/7 AI assistant that can answer all questions about my practice and even give prices. So if sometimes you have a client who is shopping around, they can get all answers right away on the website. So it's pretty cool tool, and now we use AI technology in my practice, and so far it's working great.
Wow.
Thank you for listening. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm gonna stop sharing my presentation.
That was an excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
I just find though, especially if you're dealing with people in other countries, it's like, if somebody handed me a passport from Algeria, I wouldn't know a real Algerian passport from a fake one, right? Like, I don't know, so it seems like there's a big onus on us to police people. And, there's like, if you go around suspecting people from other countries, you can be accused of being racist or Islamophobic or whatever, right? And like, I don't know cultural practices in other countries. Some people are caste societies, right? That's just the way they do business, right? So if there's a lot of nuance and stuff, and it seems like they're putting the burden on us. And, what does reasonable suspicion mean? It's like, I don't know, like, it seems okay to me. Am I going to end up getting a fine or going to jail because I'm stupid? Or, do they have to actually prove that I colluded?
Yeah,
Right?
so that's why your risk assessment program will help you really to get to that conclusion, right? Just the fact that that person is a foreign entity, right?
Yeah.
Definitely not enough for you to conclude that that's a suspicion, right? But so you have really to look at the entire transaction. Everything makes sense what they say, or something smells not right, right?
One of my clients is the Crown defense lawyer for the St. Vincent government, which is an international banking country. And, he deals with a lot of transactions and that kind of stuff. But I also know he's a government official. I also have known him for more than 20 years, right? So it's like, should I be reporting him to FINTRAC? I don't know. Like he in the past has purchased places cash, but I know that, he does a lot of business in international banking. So he's got money, right? So this was before FINTRAC was a big thing, but now I think I would be obligated to report him because, he's got his properties being purchased under a corporate structure, he comes from a place that, it's like coming from Bahamas or whatever, where there is a lot of international currency transactions and stuff, right? I mean, in theory, I should be reporting him. But he's like family. Like I've known him for 25 years, and I know all his cousins and his mother and brother. I know everybody, right? So it's like it's really,
It's tough. Yeah, it's
I mean,
tough.
in Natalia made me get his driver's license because I haven't seen it for 5 years, right? And it's like, well, geez, this
I know. Yeah. It's also not only about, like, for example, if you're dealing with a current transaction, right? It's also about monitoring. So if we have, let's say, returning clients, right? Every time we have to ask their ID. Sometimes they get frustrated, or, well, you already know me, right? It's ongoing monitoring. It's always ID recording, because
Yeah,
ID
but he
changes.
could have lied to me in the first place, right?
Mhm.
I mean, fortunately, I've actually been to that country a couple of times, and I know other people who know him, so I'm pretty sure he is who he is, right? But like he could have lied to me in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Could have had a fake driver's license or whatever, right? Like I don't know.
Again, right? It's the onus is not on us to prove these things,
No.
right? If there is a really grounds to suspect, right, you could report, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna be proven.
No.
It's so, again, they collect the data, right, and they
Right.
use it whatever they think they will use it for.
I mean, all of his funds come from a legal trust account. That doesn't mean anything, right? It's in theory, it should be protected, but who knows, right? How the money got into the trust account in the first place. Like it seems like the government is pushing their responsibilities off on us. And
Not really, because it is a lot of things. It's just one of the tools.
right.
So they immediately go and arrest those people you fill out FINTRAC for, right? So they sit and observe whatever information may be gathered from other sites, and if it's a lot of from everywhere about one particular person, then it's a race next level suspicious. So it doesn't mean like somebody go and arrest that person.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just information. It's database. It collects, and then
it's like an alerting system, basically. Like, hey, heads up, this guy might be a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it might not go anywhere. It just will sit there, and that's it, right? Unfortunately, they don't report us back, right? What they do with this information.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways,
yeah, but thank you for sharing.
We have a company party on Thursday, 19 in Yaletown. Natalia, if you want to join us, we would be happy to see you there. We'll send
me the information.
I'll provide my ID if I buy you a drink.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. See you Thursday.
Okay.
Well, thank you again for having me, and have a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, Kota, you like that kind of challenge? So, if you like, you can help us with this, what we have system in place to review it, to see if we can update it or improve it in some ways, training plan and stuff like this. Does this sound interesting to you?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because I don't want to get fined or go to jail, right? So it's like there's that. And as I was saying earlier, I'm not really too happy about the idea of thinking on terrorists, right? So it's like, it could end badly for me.
Actually, our system with the training have very good course. It's a 9 weeks course with a very details about all the things where after finishing this course, you would know exactly what to do, when and how. And it's also have credits. Every 2 years we have to finish some courses. Yeah, so I encourage you to look into this one. I finished this course actually twice. Second time they give me finish complimentary when it was already first time because it was improved, and also we get the point. So it is very good course to sign for and go through as part of choosing our courses, because it's actually most important, right? So keep that in mind. Okay, great. Kota, are you where physically? Are you in Vancouver living or
Yes, Vancouver.
in downtown?
Not downtown, nearby 29th station.
Oh, 29 station. So you can come to by SkyTrain
Yes.
to Yaletown. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So I will go to office now. In your training, is it any paperwork we need to complete with your supervisor? I understand. Yes,
Excuse me?
we have to complete some papers.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you have a time today, you can come. I'm now going to office. You can come there if you want to.
Today?
If
Well-
today is busy, we can set up another day and time.
Can I send later? I want to check my school schedule and other schedule. So
Yes, of course. Yeah, we can arrange convenient time for you.
thank you.
And Yelena here, Kota, meet Alan, Margaret, Vadim, and me, Natalia. Nice to see you all. And we here every Tuesday. Today we have more like presentation. Other days we can talk more to each other about our experiences. So every Tuesday 9:45.
All right.
Okay.
See you in a couple of days.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Next Tuesday it's what day? What date it is?
What do we have next Tuesday? Oh, my microphone is bad. 24th.
Oh, 24th. So probably we will not have a meeting next Tuesday because it's Christmas timing, right? 24th, but we will have it 1 week. What is 1 week after?
31st is New Year.
Wow. So looks like we are going to miss 2, or we gonna do the 31st. Ali have a birthday on that day. Probably he don't want to be on his birthday in a meeting, yeah. So yeah, so let's do slides Natalia will share. Let's do 2 weeks break and then we go next one. It's gonna be Tuesday
7th.
Tuesday 7. We're gonna January 7 resume the meetings. Yeah. Nice to see you, Yelena. Join us next meeting. We can discuss more details.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We still have time, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in Rome, waiting to. I said with our friend, she lives there now. You go from Kenya, and she lives there for many years. Very nice city.
Yeah, it is nice, but also a bit crowded. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. See you on January 7th, 9:45. And we talked before that to meet in person, yes?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
coming to our party on a Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. See you there. Mhm. I'm not inviting Elena. She probably would not fly here, right? If you can, then also come over.
Okay.
Ciao, nice to see all of you. A lot of love before Christmas and New Year, and happiness with your families and friends and co-workers, yeah, for best work in a new year.